opened this issue with Ian Story's Black 5, number 44767, approaching Newcastle Central, having worked light engine from Gateshead. This was a welcome sight for all steam enthusiasts after the supposed near flashover problem involving Union of South Africa in October, and the ban subsequently lifted on all steam working under overhead wires. This wasn't the only problem facing the organisers. A new name in mainline steam, Days Out Limited. Crewing problems led to the trips on the 3rd and the 4th of December being cancelled, with 24 hours to go, and then reinstated but diesel hauled. The steam workings were replaced by further runs on the 22nd and 28th. The Black 5 provides a superb spectacle as it powers a special out of Newcastle in this famous view from the castle. The special was worked out over the freight-only line from Newcastle to Blyth and returned via the East Coast main line through Morpeth. Here we see 44767 joining the Blyth and Tyne line near Long Benton. "842 of these popular mixed-traffic locomotives were built between 1934 and 1950. The two-cylinder Black 5s were one of the largest classes operated by the LMS and subsequently by British Railways. 44767 was built by the LMS at Crewe in 1947. In service, only 4 Black 5s were named, and none of these were preserved. 18 of these useful workhorses were saved, and George Stephenson is one of 5 which have acquired names since entering preservation. This line is more used to the roar of Class 56s and the clatter of MGR coal trains. Now the gentle clank of connecting rods echoes across the valley. "44767 is unique. She was the only Black 5 fitted with outside Stephenson valve gear instead of the standard Walschitz gear. From Bedlington, the working continued north before swinging round to rejoin the main line for the return run to Newcastle. The 11-coach rake is made up of Maroon Mark Is based at Carnforth. Here we see the special returning under the tracery of the East Coast Main Line overhead wires south of Morpeth. Black 5 headed 3 of these specials each day. In a sensible move, the front coaches were earmarked for enthusiasts, while the rest of the train was tailored for the family expectations of a traditional Santa special. Here we see the Black 5 on the last leg, racing towards the outskirts of Newcastle. We conclude this review of these novel steam specials with this evocative evening shot of 44767 filmed on an outward leg over the Blythe and Tyne line. Popular Sir Lamiel was one of the stars of the Great Central's Christmas Gala. Here, the King Arthur class departs with the southbound service from Loughborough. The combination of clear blue skies and cold air produces classic steam shots, as we can enjoy here. Note the clean fire and an almost total absence of smoke, just masses of environmentally friendly steam for all to admire. Here, Sir Lamiel gently glides into the Great Central's Leicester station. The former Southern Railway 460 is now operating in the attractive BR Brunswick Green livery. As their name suggests, the 54 King Arthurs were named after characters and places associated with the Arthurian legends. Sadly, only Sir Lamiel survived, and this prestigious engine, built in 1925, is now part of the National Collection. beautifully presented locomotive is a tribute to the 5305 group, which operates the Maunsell N15. Another star of the gala was the A4 Sir Nigel Gresley, also running in BR colours. The Streak has recently emerged as the first preserved locomotive to be outshot in 1950s British Railways blue livery. Year 60007 is seen accelerating away from Quorn on the 2nd of January, her last day on the Great Central. Her next home will be a 3-month stay on the East Lancashire Railway. The Birmingham Railway Museum's collar-pour is still in glossy black as Silver Jubilee, with the distinctive plating applied to her boiler fittings. She is scheduled to re-emerge in BR green for the June gala. This is the Great Central's impressive double-track section at Swithland, and the clatter of collar-pour's rake of Mark I's concludes this display of preserved steam power in action. Steam returned to the Weardale branch in December when the preserved IVAT Class 2 number 46441 worked a number of specials from Darlington Bank Top Station. The services were part of the Weardale Railway Society's campaign to save the freight-only line from Bishop's Auckland to Stanhope. Runs planned for the 3rd and 10th of December were abandoned because of the same crewing problems which beset the Tyne and Blythe specials. This is one of the 2 specials which did run on Christmas Eve. Here, the lively little IVAT accelerates past Aycliffe. Owned by Betty Beat, the 260 is based at Carnforth and travelled to the line by road, as it was cheaper. During her visit to Darlington, the Mickey Mouse, as the class are often called, was stabled at Thornaby Depot, alongside the disabled Blue Peter, which had been scheduled to work these specials. The sight of steam returning to a now deserted Shildon stirs memories of the 1975 rail cavalcade, held here to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the opening of the Stockton and Darlington Railway. These were the first steam-hauled workings on the line since the K1-2001 headed 2 excursions in March '93 to mark the official closure of the branch. The tender cab extension is to provide protection when working tender first. 128 of these locomotives were built between 1946 and 1953. 46441 was built at Crewe in 1950 and spent most of her BR life based at Lancaster Green Air. 7 of the IVATs were saved and 3 are currently at work. In addition to 46441, 46443 and 521 are regular performers on the Severn Valley Railway. Beyond Witton Weir, the railway follows the course of the River Weir, skipping from one bank to the other. The lack of turnaround facilities at Stanhope meant that the working had to be top and tailed with a Class 47. This is Res 47780. With the lower slopes of Pikestone Fell in the background, this is the view across the valley floor, with 6 more climbing miles ahead. When built by the North Eastern Railway, this line continued across the Pennines to connect with the London and North Western Railway near Penrith, and it passed under the Settle and Carlisle line at Appleby. Now the rusty rails end at Eastgate, and the special will terminate 2 miles earlier at Stanhope. Prior to closure, this was a freight-only line which served the Blue Circle cement works at Eastgate. This is one of 6 bridges over the River Wear between Walsingham and Stanhope. As can be seen from the tidy condition of the track bed, Railtrack have given the volunteers permission to remove refuse and vegetation from the line. The aim is to exploit the railway's tremendous tourist potential, and the Society's headquarters are here at Stanhope, near the entrance to the beautiful Weardale. These economical mixed-traffic locomotives were built at Crewe, Swindon and Darlington, and the design was adopted as one of BR's standard classes, the 78,000 class, which are practically identical, but with BR boiler fittings. Considerable ingenuity and temporary accommodation was needed to support the specials. As can be seen, these trains attracted considerable custom, which augurs well for the railway's future. For the gentle run home, the 47 was in command. The Weardale Railway team had put in considerable effort to organise this ambitious series of runs, and we wish the Society every success in their venture. John Cameron's A4 Union of South Africa was back in action at Crewe on the 17th of December, adding a new page to the preservation story. We were there to record the event. The occasion was the first northbound steam-hauled special out of Crewe under the West Coast Main Line wires. The Cumbrian Mountain Express would run over previously forbidden territory, through Warrington Bank Quay, Wigan and then via Farrington Junction before heading for the settlement Carlisle. The honour of working the first northbound should have fallen to Britannia on the 3rd of December. She was due to deputise for number 9, which was still trapped at Bounds Green, while BR experts argued about the height of the locomotive. But engineering work on Shap switched that run to a southbound CME. We caught up with the 13 feet 1 inch tall A4, storming the 1 in 100 climb out of Settle Junction. The emergence of repainted FSS coaching stock in early BR Plummet custard provides an authentic match to the green A4. This could be a scene from the 1950s. This is Dandrimaya Viaduct. In addition to the Union of South Africa, a second Pacific was on the long drag that day, the Duchess of Hamilton. (46-229) was working the Hertfordshire Rail Tour's southbound Christmas Pennine Limited from Carlisle to Bradford. As the train leaves the shadow of Whernside, this shot of the Duchess in silhouette highlights the relative shortness of the Pacific's tender, stunting an otherwise perfect outline. This was a consequence of the limiting dimensions of LMS turntables. With the last coach clear of the viaduct and its speed restriction, the Duchess accelerates away south past Ribble Head Station. We now leave the menacing gloom of Ingleborough for the sunlit North Shropshire Plain to catch up with number 9 and another special which started from Crewe. On the 7th of January, FSS arranged a special from Stevenage to Gloucester via Crewe, with steam in command from Crewe. South of Shrewsbury, with Longmynd in the distance, Union of South Africa storms up the climb to Church Stretton. The A4's distinctive haunting chime whistle echoes across the border marches south of Ludlow as number 9 heads for the demanding succession of climbs between here and Newport. Finally, the sight and sound of the A4 in the lee of the Black Mountains ends this review of some of number 9's most recent adventures. Another famous product of the Gresley drawing board is also in the news. This time the venue is North Wales. Flying Scotsmen returned to Llangollen on the 11th of January for an intensive 16-week programme. The A3 is scheduled to run more than 6,500 miles during this visit, which will include regular passenger haulage at weekends and driver experience sessions on weekdays. These sessions will be the last opportunity for the general public to drive the world-famous engine this century. Liveried as 6103, the A3 has now been returned to its authentic BR condition, complete with German-style deflectors to lift drifting exhaust from the double chimney. This being a Saturday, the 14th of January, this is a service train departure in the competent hands of one of the regular footplate crews. For the footplate experience courses, the railway is offering the opportunity to drive and fire the Scotsman with a train of Maroon Mark 1s on a 6-mile return diagram to D-side. Here we see the A3 pulling away from Llangollen. The smoke deflectors and the disappearance of the distinctive LMER apple green livery have upset some fans. However, that livery was always incorrect. The Pacific never ran in green as 4472 with the A3 boiler and banjo dome. Following the sparkling River Dee, here we see the only surviving unstreamlined Gresley Pacific slowing for the outer home signal which protects the station at Glyndwr-Rydwy. The halt provides an opportunity to take in the banjo dome and double chimney of the A3. The railway hopes to extend through to Carrock by Easter, which will increase the line's run to 7¼ miles. The official opening is planned for the end of May. Having run round its service, 60103 heads tender first back down the valley to the railway's headquarters at Llangollen. After North Wales, the A3 will continue her tour of preserved lines. In May, the Pacific is scheduled to visit the North Yorkshire Moors for 6 weeks, before moving on to the Paignton and Dartmouth line. Meanwhile, the last chance to drive Doncaster's most famous product will be here at Llangollen until the 28th of April. For our next report, we crossed over the entrance to Poole Harbour to visit our neighbours at Swanage. One of the most important recent developments is the acquisition of a first-class workshop area at the Purbeck Business Centre. Inside this spacious, well-lit accommodation, several projects are underway. Although not designed as a railway workshop, the facility is a vast improvement on many of the locations we have visited, where dedicated enthusiasts toil in difficult conditions to produce incredible feats of renovation. One major project is the overhaul of this 060 tank. Numbered 30075, the engine looks like another of the distinctive USA tanks shipped over to Britain by the US in 1943 and bought by the Southern Railway after the war. In fact, this engine was built to the same design in Yugoslavia in 1960, where it was numbered JZ62669. The original tanks were designed to be assembled in theatre from kits of parts. A visit to the workshops enables you to appreciate the complexity of a 5,000-gallon tender as fitted to a bullet like Pacific. Ever since 1990, number 34072 257 Squadron has been running with Blackmore Vale's tender. Not only is the availability of accurate drawings one of the problems facing preservationists, but in the days of steam, railway workshops were sometimes less than punctilious when following the detail of some of the specifications. From these light, airy facilities, we move out to the main line, where the railway's delightful Class 1F tank is hard at work on an engineer's duty. With this vigorous performance and immaculate turnout, it is hard to believe that she was built way back in 1880. Meanwhile, the final push to Norden is well underway. The object is to finish the extension and open at Easter. The Norden project is important because of the problems of terminating trains here at Corfe Castle. Corfe suffers from chronic parking problems, and the aim will be to encourage visitors to travel in by train from a park-and-ride site at Norden. The 1F provides support to the extension team. The extension has cost some £45,000, with another £12,000 needed to complete the project. Meanwhile, there is much work still to be done.
No, we don't allow bottles.
Once the track bed is cleared of vegetation, new track and ballast is laid. Beyond Norden, the intention is to extend the line to a road-rail interchange near Witch Farm for stock transfers. This will then avoid low loaders clogging up the narrow streets of Swanage town. Finally, we leave the hard-working team at Swanage with this summer memory of the Drummond T9 in June 1993. Bahamas has now retired from mainline steam running, and we conclude this issue with a tribute to this popular locomotive. This departure is from Derby on the 1st of June 1989, shortly after her return to mainline duties. The working formed part of the Midland County's 150 celebrations. The line most associated with Bahamas must be the Settlement Carlisle. This is Burkitt Common on the 14th of July the following year, when 45596 worked the Appleby Leeds leg of a King's Cross to Appleby special arranged by FSS. Stanier introduced the Jubilees in 1934 to meet a serious deficiency in the LMS's second-line express passenger capability. Most were built at Crewe, but Bahamas was outshopped from the North British Locomotive Works in 1935 and numbered 5596. This is the same working passing Malastang. The three-cylinder 460 locomotives were classified 5XP and weighed in at 77 tons without the tender. Bahamas is currently fitted with a Stanier 4,000-gallon tender. When first introduced, their performance left much to be desired, and the Jubilees took some time to develop their full potential. After nationalization, Bahamas was renumbered 45596 and the class reclassified as 6P. The next memory is a departure from Carlisle on the 30th of April 1991 with the luxury Royal Scotsman for a southbound run over the S&C. Following modifications, particularly to overcome defective drafting, the Jubilees turned into competent performers. But they always required more delicate handling than, for example, the two-cylinder Black Fives. Here is the same working at Dent. From the wilds of the Pennines, we follow Bahamas to the more tranquil Shropshire setting of Western Ryn, near the Cheshire border, on the 15th of July, 1991. Sadly, the crossing gate, the signals and the loops have all now gone. And as Bahamas' mainline certificate expired in September last year, this powerful scene cannot be repeated. Fortunately, the signal box was saved for the Llangollen Railway. On the 3rd of August that year, Bahamas was working over the Welsh Marches. This unusual split-level track formation is near Hope under Dinmore, between Leominster and Hereford. Bahamas was also given the last North Wales Coast Express of 1991. This is Mould Junction on the 15th of September. The Jubilee was back in action on the attractive North Wales route the following year. Here, Bahamas approaches the picturesque location at Conwy. Four Jubilees survived the cutter's torch. We have already seen Colapur masquerading as Silver Jubilee on the Great Central. 5690 Leander was at the Severn Valley, but has not run for the last 5 years. In January '95, she was sold to Dr. Beat. What's left of 5699 Galatea is still stored at Kidderminster. This is Bahamas departing in true mainline style from Holyhead on the 10th of October 1993. Currently, Bahamas is operating on the East Lancs Railway and scheduled to join Colapur on the Great Central in June. This could be the first time that two green preserved Jubilees will have appeared together. this programme with the Bahamas Locomotive Society's graceful charge pounding the main line near Aldermaston on the 21st of July 1994, heading a return working to Derby.